In this episode, I'm with Geoff Woods, the GOAT of focusing on one thing.
The moment you wake up, you are in control. You either consciously take control or you're unconsciously giving it up. That job, the business, the finances, the career, all of those things are rubber balls. If you drop the job ball, it's gonna bounce back. Nobody wants to drop the ball, but it's gonna bounce back. You can recover. Yet if you look at that one relationship that matters most to you in this world, it is not a rubber ball, it's a glass ball. If you drop it, it shatters. Sometimes you're succeeding so slowly, it feels like you're failing. But when you trust the domino effect long enough,
exponential growth starts to kick in.
That's when extraordinary results happen. To live an extraordinary life, to build an extraordinary business, requires that you master something. And it only has to be one thing.
Everyone wants to be great, but only few actually get there. And I'm on a mission to find out what all the greatest have in common. I've traveled tirelessly to find, sit down, and talk with GOATs, people that are arguably the greatest of all time at what they do. Sales, marketing, advertising, business, podcasts, branding, you name it. The way they do things may be different, but they all seem to see the world the same way. To them, success is not only achievable, but inevitable. And we'll get inside their heads as they share their expertise with me each week. My name's Mike Arce, and this is The GOAT Show. This episode is sponsored by Trainual. One of the most popular authors for entrepreneurs, Michael Gerber, said people should not run a business, systems should run a business, and people should run the systems. And having all those systems and processes organized and documented is crucial to building a scalable company. However, it can be a very daunting task to make all that happen, but not with Trainual. Trainual gives you an all-in-one solution to quickly and easily document your processes, educate your team, keep them updated with changes, and quiz them along the way to ensure they know the material. I absolutely love Trainual, and you can learn more at gettrainual.com. Again, that's gettrainual.com. And I've also got to talk about Infusionsoft, which is known as the industry's best sales and marketing automation platform for small businesses. It allows me to build out automated email campaigns in all my businesses, manage my entire sales pipeline, segment my lists. I can even run e-commerce campaigns through there. And we've been using Infusionsoft now since 2011. It's an amazing tool that I can't imagine my business running without. And if you're interested in learning more about how we use it and how you can use it, you can go to getinfusionsoft.com to actually view an interactive demo. Again, that's getinfusionsoft.com. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Arce, and welcome back to another episode of The GOAT Show, where we interview people that are arguably the greatest of all time at whatever it is they do. And today, I'm here with Geoff Woods, the arguable GOAT of focusing on one thing. Geoff, welcome to The GOAT Show.
Thanks for having me.
Man, I'm so excited to have you on. And the reason, I've told you this already when I first met you, I read The One Thing like 3 times. And I've gone back and I've referenced that book several times, and I've had people on my team read it, multiple people on my team. And so when I found out that you are running the company that this book is basically based off of to help people implement the strategies in the book, I was like, I gotta have you on the show.
Well, we'll flip it. The book existed first, and it did so well. Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, who co-authored the book, looked up and said, wow, there's really something here. I mean, what other book sells 1 million copies in the first 3-4 years? So
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it was a book that was recommended to me by like 30 people over the course of 2 years. So it feels good saying, oh yeah, I read it. I'll read it again though. So, okay, so let's talk about, you were chosen because you have the ability, you have the concepts down, you live it, you breathe it, right? And so let's talk about the one thing. What is the foundational lesson learned in that book?
When you ask the question, what are the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results?
Right.
Not average results, good, even great results. We're talking extraordinary, the real rare air. It's the idea that there's a lot of things that we could do every single day, and there's always one thing that you can do, such that by doing it, makes everything else easier or unnecessary. So when you go through your life, how do you get real clarity on what your one thing is and ensure that until your number one priority is done, everything else is a distraction.
Okay, so now people that have read this book and got the whole concept, right? Because there's so much supporting content around that. And that phrase in there, what's the one thing I can do such if I do it? Like that phrase is throughout the book several times.
Correct.
Right? And so, but what about the people that haven't gotten all the context yet? So when they hear, they say, dude, I'm an entrepreneur. I can't focus on one thing. How do you respond to that?
For anybody who has ever looked up at the end of the day and felt like, I know I was super busy. I know I did a lot, but did I even get anything done?
There's a difference between busy and productive.
Exactly. That's what this is. I mean, in your life, especially in your career, you really have two buckets. Mm-hmm. You have your most important work, the handful of true priorities that if you just accomplish those would make 80% of the results happen in your life. That's the first bucket.
Okay.
And then you have everything else. What's interesting is when we lay it out like that, you think, yeah, well, I want to do my most important work. But what's really interesting is if we were to actually watch people's actions, what their actions would tell us about their beliefs is that they believe they need to do all the stuff that doesn't matter so they can hopefully free up time to do the very few things that actually matter most.
Wow. Okay, so now let's say they have like 5 or 6 things that they're working on at one time, mm-hmm. and they're kind of already committed, right? They're like, I already started working on this. This is in motion. I already started working on that in motion. Because I'm sure you've seen that.
Yeah.
Right? And they feel like they're backing off of their commitments by dropping certain things, and they all feel like they can handle it. So how do you coach that person into a better state?
I'll share the coaching that was given to me by my partner, Gary Keller, who, for people who don't know who he is, he started Keller Williams Realty, which is now the largest real estate company in the world. So when you look at who are the titans of their industry, he's the titan of real estate. In my first 90 days, one of my tests was to create a business plan, create a vision for our company that I could get Gary and Jay, his co-author, to sign off on, which was very intimidating. And I remember walking into this room on the second floor of our corporate headquarters and sitting down with Gary and Jay, and I hand them each a single sheet of paper. It was my business plan on one page. At the top, it had our goal for the year, and then it had 3 priorities. The 3 things that if I could just accomplish these three things would make everything else easier or unnecessary in our world. And I'd been taking action on those 3 things, Mike. Gary and Jay, we started talking about priority number 1. They asked a bunch of questions. I answered them. I said, are we good? They go, yeah. I started talking about number 2. About halfway through talking through number 2, Gary started asking more questions about number 1. I didn't think anything of it. I just answered the questions. I said, we good? He goes, yeah. I finish up number 2 and I start talking about number 3, and Gary starts asking more questions about number 1.
He's still stuck on 1. He
Correct.
Never left.
And in my mind, I'm going, did he just not get it, or am I missing something? And I'm going, there's no way.
Is 1 that nice looking?
There's no way you build that kind of a company in the real estate world without being a sharp cookie. So
right.
I answer the questions. I say, we good? He goes, yeah. I start talking about number 3 for no more than 10 seconds before he stops me a final time. He asks, do you need to accomplish number 3 to accomplish number 2? I said, no. He said, do you need to accomplish number 2 in order to accomplish number 1? I said, no. I said, do me a favor, will you just draw a line between number 1 and number 2? Or even better, rip the page in half.
Wow.
Don't even think about number 2 and number 3 until you've earned the right to.
It is religion.
By mastering number 1. Yeah, and here's what it was. I was telling myself the story that I had, these are the 3 things that I need to get done for the year. That if I just did these things, everything else would be easier or unnecessary. And I was taking action on all 3. What Gary helped me understand in that moment is that we can tell ourselves as many stories as we want. There's actually one thing that matters more than anything else. And I don't earn the right to think about anything else until I've done everything to advance the number 1 priority. Now, in a vacuum, that makes a lot of sense. I'm just going to do this one thing and nothing else matters. Then we realize we actually live in a world where that's not realistic, right? It's a matter of having clarity on what that one thing is and asking yourself the question, am I checking email before I take action on that one thing? Am I treating engaging with customers the same as responding to email? Am I treating lead generating in my business the same as attending meetings? They're not created equal. This is about how do you take action on your priorities first.
Wow. Okay, so now you've probably read this book a million times already. Enough times to be able to create content.
I live it every day.
You live it. Okay. So when you wake up in the morning,
Yeah.
what's the first thought you have? Like how does your day mentally start?
I'll tell you what it used to look like and what it looks like now.
Okay.
When I first started, my alarm would go off, I'd silence the alarm, and I would immediately tap the email icon. I'd refresh email, I'd look through, I'd open some of them, I would say, you know what, I'm not going to deal with that right now. I'd mark it as unread. I'd go on social media real quick. I'd then see what text messages I had. I would respond to those. Then I'd get up,
You'd react first thing in the morning.
I would put my mind in a reactive state. You nailed it. And then I would go take a shower, and what was really interesting is as I was getting dressed and I'm making breakfast for my kids, while I'm being there with my wife, I wasn't actually there. Because I was thinking about that email that I didn't handle. And I moved through my day that way, allowing other people's priorities to infect my mind, to occupy my mind share. And I felt very anxious all the time. And then I understood that the moment you wake up, you are in control. You either consciously take control or you're unconsciously giving it up. And so now, when I wake up, my phone is actually on airplane mode and do not disturb. I go and I meditate. I get some exercise in. I take the shower. I'm present with my family. The moment I'm actually getting in my car to drive is when I take it off of airplane mode and off of do not disturb.
Wow.
When I get into the office, I used to open my computer and check my email. I think a lot of people can relate to that. The first power habit I ever formed is before I earned the right to go into my inbox to acknowledge everybody else's urgent priorities, that I first and foremost had to take action on my one thing. And so it's now at the point where it's such a habit that I actually don't check email as a habit.
I like the idea of the airplane mode in the beginning.
Yeah, just leverage technology is a blessing, and in many ways we allow it to be a curse. So establishing boundaries of when you will say yes to allowing the world in, and when you will actually protect your time and say, no, this is my time. I'm consciously going to choose how it's going to be used. I'm not available for a text message. I'm not available to receive a phone call. I'm not available for somebody to pop by and ask, do you have a minute? Because the answer is no, I don't yet. I will later, after I earn the right to acknowledge you by focusing on my one thing first.
The thing is, anything that's super powerful, whether it's like money's super powerful, right? The things that money can do, or like Superman can fly, right? And technology, all these things are super powerful. You can use them for good or evil. And like, so technology, it can give you so much more control of your life, or it can take it all away. But you have to like make the choice of what it's gonna do in your life.
Yes.
And so you've controlled it, and now use it to your advantage only, which is pretty cool.
Well, here's a great example. I see you got a ring on the finger. You're married.
Yes. Yep.
Let me ask you this,
The
Mike.
One Wife.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a book I'm writing.
When you were standing at the altar, did you have your cell phone on you?
No.
Why not?
I think, honest truth, I think it was because it looked bad in my, I don't think I had pockets in my tuxedo pants.
Were you rocking the tight pants?
I think I don't remember if my tuxedo. No, I think it's just like that wasn't what it was. It didn't need to be on me.
It didn't need to be on you.
Right.
Whenever we ask this when we're speaking at companies, we say, when you were standing at the altar, was your phone on you?
Yeah.
And if it would have rang, would you have actually said, hold on,
Yeah,
real
give me
quick,
a
hold on. I do, yeah. We all understand that there are times that it is acceptable to be available to other people, and there's a time when it is not appropriate.
Right.
We totally get that. What's interesting is how we are not able to say yes to ourselves first on a regular basis.
We don't value our time often enough, and therefore we put other people's in front of ours.
Well, and sometimes, and this is because most people by nature want to help other people, so when somebody stops by and says, hey, do you got a minute, the natural reaction is yes.
Right.
If somebody asks you for help, you want to say yes because you want to be the type of person who helps other people get what they want. The challenge is in any given moment, if you're saying yes to one thing, what are you saying no to? Everything else.
Yeah.
And most people will fast forward through their careers and their lives saying yes to something that actually doesn't matter to them, and they end up saying no often to the things that matter most to them. Their family, their health, their spirituality, their personal life.
Or the one thing in their business that can really move the needle.
There you go. In the book, Gary and Jay talk about, if you imagine the 7 circles, they call them, it's the 7 most important areas of your life. You got your spirituality, your physical health, your personal life, your relationships, your job, your business, and your finances. When most people, at least professionals, probably the people who are listening to this or watching this, will focus on that job, the business, the finances, the career, right? All of those things are rubber balls. If you drop the job ball, it's going to bounce back. Nobody wants to drop the ball, but it's going to bounce back. You can recover. Yet if you look at that key relationship, that one relationship that matters most to you in this world, it is not a rubber ball, it's a glass ball. And if you drop it, it shatters.
Right.
It doesn't bounce back. Yet when we watch our actions, when we look at how we show up in the world, we just take those things for granted, assuming that they'll bounce back until sometimes it's too late.
Now you're gonna have people that are like, all right, this is all making sense, right? I gotta start focusing on myself. I gotta start valuing my time more. I gotta start focusing on the things that are the most important. What is the most important thing or the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
So they're gonna do that, but they're gonna fail.
Yeah.
Because like you gotta create habits around this stuff. And even if they got like you've got habits, you've been living this for 2 years now straight,
Yes.
right? But let's be honest, you're human, right? Are there moments that you go, like even today, where you go, what am I doing?
Yes.
This is against everything. So just so people don't feel like they're total failures, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Where does it happen most recently to
This
you?
has been one of the most surprising benefits of whether it was us doing the One Thing podcast or when we go into corporations and actually get face-to-face with people, to be able to share what it actually looks like to live the one thing. I've been getting mentored directly by the co-authors for 2 years.
That is incredible.
I still pinch myself every day. And there has not been a single day that I haven't failed living the
Really?
one thing. Yes.
So let's give me an example of like yesterday or day before.
Let's just talk about thinking and acting in order of priority. When
Okay.
we look at what is the true value, one of the most powerful habits we can teach someone is to actually at any given moment have the clarity that this is the most important thing I can be doing this entire week. Like if I asked you, Mike, right now, what's the one thing, like if I held a gun to your head, metaphorically, and said you only get to do one thing this week and then you have to go enjoy yourself here in Austin. I'm taking your phone, I'm stripping internet out of the city. You can only do one thing. Do you have absolute clarity on what the one thing is you can do this week?
No.
Yeah. Most people, when we ask that question, they just kind of look at us and go, like the deer in the headlights, right?
Right. I can tell you 3 things.
Right. So first and foremost
Yeah.
is having the clarity and then having the actual habit
Right.
of taking action on that first.
Okay.
One of the most powerful things that somebody learns when they work with us in the first 30 days.
Yeah.
I've not had a single day that I've perfectly acted in order of priority. I can tell you exactly what my one thing is for this week, and yet I can also tell you that I checked email before I took action on that one thing today. I checked email because my assistant was out, and I knew that hole was missing, and I told myself the story that it needed to happen, and the truth is I could have advanced the ball on that one thing for 10 minutes before I earned the right to check the email. That was today.
Because we're really good at selling ourselves.
Yes.
We're really good at selling ourselves good things, bad things, basically whatever it is we want. Because in sales, in order to be a successful salesperson, you have to know what their pain points are. You have to know what their struggles are, their challenges, what they want and need. And you know all that about yourself. You've been living with yourself your whole life. So all you have to do is sell yourself, and we know how to buy.
Yet most salespeople will tell themselves whatever story they need to try to justify not lead generating, which is the one thing for a salesperson. They will check email before they make their calls. They'll try to get out of it, but it's the one thing.
Right. So let's talk about the people that you've been able to work with, because how I met you, we're both part of the Inner Circle program through Russell Brunson.
I'm actually
right?
not.
Oh, you're not a part of it?
No, I just coach Russell.
So you coach Russell Brunson. And I mean, this guy has done great things. In just 3 years, we've seen him grow, probably one of the fastest growing SaaS companies out there. Yeah. And so he comes to you to be able to focus, because I'm sure a guy like him's getting opportunities thrown at him all the time, right? And he's got to focus. So he comes to you for that. So give me an idea, when you work with guys like Russell, like what are the biggest challenges for you as a coach to help them out?
Well, first and foremost, I really don't coach people normally. It's part of us having a coaching company behind the one thing is for me to actually walk it to make sure that I can bring a certain service standard and know it. But a lot of it is just asking certain questions about what are your priorities this week? Do you even have clarity on what your priorities are this week? If I made you do what Gary did to me, and I had you write them out in order of priority, are you viewing your number one priority as the one thing and everything else is a distraction? Does your calendar actually reflect your priorities? Because most people, even if they set goals or they get clarity on what their priorities really are, they'll then take it, they'll throw it away, and they'll follow whatever their calendar says, and they'll do it blindly. It says you have a meeting at this time, they'll just go, like a goat, just show up to it, right? They see they have a call with this person, they just show up. They never actually look at their calendar as a flexible, living, breathing document, and they actually wipe the slate clean, and all that stuff that's on it that doesn't matter, it gets shelved. You first and foremost time block your most important work, and then all that other stuff gets to interview for its spot back. This is what it looks like to actually control your time. And when you do that, especially when you're a CEO, when you're an executive, that's everything.
Have you seen people waste opportunities in their own life because they just don't commit to it? Don't commit to the philosophy of the one thing? Do you look at people sometimes and go like, you could be so great if you just focus?
Yeah, I mean, it's every day, right? Every single day. Why is it that some people are able to build extraordinary companies, making a massive impact in the world, and live a very meaningful life, and you have another person with the exact same number of hours in the day who's really struggling, who wakes up hating what they do, who gets to the end of the month not having enough money to cover the bills? What's the difference? The one thing we have in common is how much time we have. The question is, how are you investing your time?
Right. Now, I told you, we talked about this earlier. Not only have I read the book several times, but I've had employees in my team. They're not entrepreneurs. They're members of my team read through the book in order to give themselves the opportunities to advance and grow within the company as well. And I thought I was the only one doing it, but you're actually like working with a bunch of companies and organizations to help not just the leaders of the organization, but also the employees become more effective so the company as a whole can get more done. Is that right?
Yeah, well, when you look at what the stats are, and I don't remember the exact number, but the vast majority of people today really don't like what they do in their career. And
I heard that. I don't remember what the numbers are either, but it was an insane, like 65 or 70%.
Even higher. And when you're a business owner, that's really scary because it's your baby, right? And the people who are required to be in your world to run it, if they're miserable, is that why you started a business? We really believe in that purpose drives everything.
Right.
And having clarity about what your purpose is and ensuring that you take purpose-driven actions every single day. And so what does it look like to walk into anywhere from a Fortune 500 company where we have those conversations to even like a company like yours where if you got 20 people, what does it look like first and foremost from a C-level?
Right.
To have clarity on what your vision is and to know the model and the framework to break that vision down into actions that every single person knows exactly how what they do every single day contributes with the overall mission of the company, how they can invest their time, how they can start to collaborate with one another, how you create a culture where it's safe to say, hey, I would love to help you, and I can't do it right now because this is my one thing, and I'm happy to acknowledge and help you and support you however I can later today, and that's really accepted.
Right.
Because when that's the moment that really interesting things start to happen in an organization.
Now, a lot of CEOs and entrepreneurs are so used to going through like online courses and trainings that they find a way to be able to get stuff with certain people at the employee level. It's a little different, right? They're used to a different type of training and education. So do you guys do in-person stuff, or like how do you guys work with different levels of experience in education here?
In the way that works best for them.
So you do online stuff and
we started focusing on online.
Okay.
And that's when I started the company, it was all online, serving the individual. And it ended up getting so much traction that corporations started saying, hey, will you come out and speak? And then it's, hey, after we do the keynote, what does it look like to actually embody this in the culture? Which sometimes that can be done virtually, sometimes it requires us actually going there and then plugging the employees into the existing online trainings that we have. Then there's higher level coaching as needed.
Now, the one thing came in like really good timing with me where I read that around the same time I read the book Built to Sell. And so it felt like life was pushing me towards niching within my agency.
Yeah.
And we did, and we focused on just like one industry and even like a segment within that industry. And, you know, everything just kind of really started going from there, which was really great. We knew exactly what to put out. We knew, because we were focused on one thing. So everything we did was like focused on helping that thing grow.
Yes.
Which was fantastic. When you're working with a lot of agencies, I was lucky enough to have those 2 books and a mentor come in all at the same time telling me to do it. Not everyone's got that. Maybe some of them for the first time, they're getting this idea to niche down in this very episode. So what do you say to an agency that I'm doing SEO, I'm doing AdWords, I'm doing websites, I'm doing graphics, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm working with dentists, I'm working with doctors, I'm working with lawyers. What do you say to them when they tell you, but I'm struggling. I'm really good at what I do, but I'm struggling.
I think back to when I was in a mastermind with Gary Keller, and he looked out at the room and he said, to live an extraordinary life, to build an extraordinary business, requires that you master something. And it only has to be one thing. When you really think about what the road to mastery is, though, Mike, it's not a destination like you took a course or you've done it for 2 years and all of a sudden, boom, you're a master. Mastery is not a destination, it's a journey. So do you have clarity on the area that you are going to make a lifelong commitment to going on a journey to further mastering that subject? Because as you know, once you think you get to the top, you realize that no, that's just the new floor. And there's a whole nother ceiling of achievement, which means you have to identify the next models, the systems that will automatically allow you to break through that ceiling, which then that becomes the new floor, and there's a whole nother ceiling. It's, I think it was the founder of judo was asked to be buried in his white belt, which was very representative of the fact that he had the mindset of a lifelong student. You're a master of what you do know, and you're a lifelong apprentice of what you have yet to learn.
Wow. Okay, so now the agency owner says, yeah, but I can help all those other people. I'm saying no to them. I'm saying no to revenue that I need.
I asked the question, how many rabbits can you chase simultaneously and catch any of them?
You get none.
And by the way, like for people who are watching this, let's have the accountability moment here personally. It's easy for me to say this to you. I'll immediately tell you that I fail at this all the time. In fact, just last week, I was having a conversation with my partners about where we are in terms of the numbers in our business and how I want to be here and how in order to get here, I'm going to start doing these other things because I think that'll get us there faster. And that's when Jay looks at me and goes, how many hats are you going to allow yourself to wear before you burn out? I was acting like an entrepreneur, shiny object, low-hanging fruit. That was one of the lies that got cut from the book, the lie of the low-hanging fruit.
Do you cringe when you find out you just did it?
No, I get really excited because I know in that moment there's a teaching moment there.
Okay.
And like you said, how do you create content for this? I live it every day, meaning I fail at it every day.
You're your own customer throughout this program.
Exactly. So to have clarity on the fact that Gary says sometimes we're succeeding so slowly that it feels like we're failing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's well. 'Cause the thing is, so you always compare yourself to someone, and you never even let the comparisons get close.
Right.
Like I remember when I first started my this business, I was like, man, if I could just be like that guy, which that guy I'm crushing today.
Right.
But back then he was far, and then I got halfway to that person, not even close.
Yeah.
Halfway to that person, and I'm already following another guy.
Yep.
And he's further than the first guy was. And then it kept going. And now I'm looking at people, they're doing $1 billion. And I'm like, all right, how do I create something that's $1 billion? And I'm like, come on, what am I doing? I'm doing it again.
Yep.
So I get what you're saying, because even though you're succeeding and you're growing, you never, if you feel like you're going too slow, you feel like you're going backwards.
Yeah, well, most executives have a certain level of assertiveness. They naturally want to move fast. They naturally want results yesterday. And when those results aren't showing up, it's very easy to start chasing other rabbits because you're telling yourself the story that's going to get you that's going to get you there faster. Mm-hmm. But in reality, when you start doing that, when you start dividing your focus, you're failing so slowly. You think you're succeeding. So it flips.
Wow.
Most of us are actually failing so slowly, we think we're succeeding, and the people who do narrow the focus, who niche it down, who get clarity on the one thing, they're often succeeding so slowly it feels like they're failing.
Wow.
Yeah, you know this in the book, the idea of the domino effect. Anybody who's ever played with dominoes, they've lined them up. When you knock one down, if you've done it right, not just one falls, multiple of them fall, right? And when you also know in the book that a single 2-inch domino doesn't just knock down another 2-inch domino, it can actually knock down one that's 50% larger. So a 2-inch domino can knock over 3 can knock over 4.5, and if you actually scale that out, by the 18th domino, that single 2-inch domino would knock down the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Isn't that crazy?
Right.
When you think about
by
that?
the 23rd, it knocks over the Eiffel Tower. By the 31st, a 2-inch domino would loom 3,000 feet above Mount Everest. And by the 57th domino, a 2-inch domino could reach almost from the Earth to the Moon. And if you graph that out, it's what most growth looks like. That hockey stick growth, right? Nothing, 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 boom. Sometimes you're succeeding so slowly, it feels like you're failing. But when you trust the domino effect long enough,
exponential growth starts to kick in.
that's when extraordinary results happen.
Because I think everyone's chasing that linear growth. They want to see like a 50% growth every month, or even 10, 20% growth every month. But if it's like 1% or 0.5%, then all you just need to be there for that one right moment, the right partnership or the right, opportunity, and then all of a sudden things can really change for you. But because it's not there, it's kind of like that Santa Claus syndrome. I don't see it, so I don't believe it's there. I got to do something different.
One of the most powerful things we've shared when we train other people, whether it's individuals or in a corporation, is the idea that the number one reason that people fail living the one thing is because they don't endure the monotony of success. Here's what we mean by that. Extraordinary results do not come when you chase the new shiny object, you try the new strategy, the new diet fad. It's not constantly finding something new to do. Extraordinary results come when you get clarity on the handful of true priorities that if you just did those again and again and again and again and again, over time would lead to that hockey stick growth. Here's what happens when people start living the one thing. The first few weeks, they're really excited. The idea of narrowing your focus, this clarity, it's amazing. Look at how much I'm getting done. And after a few weeks, the novelty starts to wear off.
It gets slow growth.
Yeah, it gets boring to do it. And then it starts to feel like the world's attacking you. Because the world does not stop spinning when you finally get clarity on what your one thing is. The people who have a plan to endure that monotony of success are the people who get the extraordinary results.
Okay, and you also have a podcast that is dedicated on helping people really focus in on their one things, and you get really great guests on the show, and they share their life stories and their strategies on how they live that life as well, correct?
Correct. Well, over 1 million people have read the book, and like you, they're like one of their favorite books,
right?
And yet they struggle to live it. And so we said, let's pull the curtain back and I'll start recording how I'm failing living the book. And bring on other people who are living the book, and some of them very big notable names,
really,
and really dissect what does it look like to live this at a high level, and it's helped so many people.
So let's say I want to listen to this podcast for the first time, and I want to really get what this podcast is going to help me with. What's the one episode that I should start with to like lead my experience in the one thing? The one that you say, please start with this one so you get it.
I'm just going to go teach to the top of the class, so I'm going to say go to episode 83, Why Accountability Starts by Looking in the Mirror. This is one of those episodes where I whip out the metaphorical accountability 2x4, and if there's anything that you're not satisfied with in your life, this will be a interesting dose of perspective.
So iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all that?
Anywhere.
It's called The One Thing Podcast?
Yep, all spelled out.
Awesome. And guys, definitely get the book. It's incredible. And also, if you guys have issues with really implementing this stuff, or if you want to get your team into it, you said you got these great programs. So how do people learn about the programs if that's something they want to learn more about?
Yeah, sure. So if it's for you individually, we have a program called Living Your One Thing, which if you just go to theonething.com, and that's with the number one.
The number one
thing.com, even though the book's all spelled out, the one thing with the number one in the URL. And you click on trainings, you can learn about living your one thing. That's our real accountability program about how do you actually get clarity on your priorities every single week, and we're there to really coach you through that. If it's a corporate type thing, you can submit something on the website and we go from there.
Same thing on theonething.com?
Yeah.
Same thing? Okay, cool. Geoff, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You know, when I first heard that you were part of this book, I was like, Sarah, I told my team, I was like, we got to find a way to get this on the show. This guy's been too impactful in our lives. This whole program has been too impactful. So I'm glad you were able to find the time to make it out here while we were in Austin anyway. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Take care. And guys, we will see you next week.
Thanks for joining us today. If you like this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel or find our podcasts on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever your favorite place to listen to podcasts might be. And if you really like this episode, please leave a review for us on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.